Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to cutting through the noise and getting truly well-informed on today's biggest business ideas.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're diving into something really foundational to modern success. Think about companies like Dell, Zara, 7-Eleven Japan, even Walmart.
Okay, quite a mix there. Tech, fashion, retail.
Exactly. Wildly different industries. Yet, they've all achieved incredible sustained success. What do you think they have in common?
Well, it's fascinating because while they seem so different, their common thread isn't just, great products or services.
Right.
It's about a master-level understanding and execution of something often overlooked from the outside. Supply chain management.
Exactly. That's our topic today. But before we dive into all the details, let's just quickly frame it for anyone maybe new to the concept.
Sure.
At its heart, supply chain management is about getting the right product.
Yeah, the right thing.
At the right time and at the right cost.
Yeah, orchestrating every single step, from raw materials all the way to, your customer's doorstep.
And in today's global business environment, the actual field of competition has shifted. It's squarely on managing that global supply chain now.
That's a key point. Because quality and efficiency, they're no longer really competitive advantages.
You're just expected, right?
Totally. They're table stakes. The true opportunities for growth, for profitability, often lie not just within a company's direct operations, but significantly outside it, within its broader supply chain.
So zooming out a bit, this means that mastering supply chain management isn't just a cost-cutting exercise anymore. It's way more strategic.
Absolutely. It can actually enable companies to increase market share, drastically reduce costs, profoundly improve customer service.
And boost their market value significantly.
Exactly.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack what supply chain management truly means. We're drawing from a comprehensive introduction to the topic.
Yeah, we want to arm you, the listener, with key insights and practical examples.
Examples that showcase just how strategic supply chain management can drive real, tangible business results.
Consider this your shortcut to being well-informed on this critical business area.
Okay, so let's jump right into why this shift is happening. Why is the supply chain the new competitive frontier?
Well, it used to be that the fierce competitive battles were all about making your internal operations as lean and efficient as humanly possible.
Right, squeezing out every penny inside your own factory.
But the game has fundamentally changed.
How so?
The primary source of competitive advantage has, undeniably moved. It shifted from solely internal efficiency
to the overall management and orchestration of the entire supply chain.
Precisely. It's about how well a company coordinates that flow of goods, information, and funds.
From raw materials all the way to the customer's doorstep.
And involving many, many different entities along the way.
And we have some incredible success stories that truly illustrate this. Let's take Dell Computers, for instance.
Okay, Dell. Huge player.
Became one of the largest PC manufacturers globally. And a huge reason for their success was their unique supply chain model.
Built around direct sales to customers. That was the key.
Which gave them an incredible amount of control, didn't it?
It did. And what's fascinating here is that Dell pioneered direct-to-consumer, not just for, the obvious cost savings.
There was more to it.
Oh, yeah. They turned it into a data capture engine. Every single customer order became a real-time signal.
So they knew exactly what people wanted right now.
Exactly, which allowed Dell to make incredibly educated decisions across their entire supply chain. They could provide crucial real-time data to their suppliers.
So what were the advantages of that?
Well, lower capital investment in inventory, for one, much faster time to market with new components like those cutting-edge Intel chips everyone wanted.
Right, they could get the latest tech in machines quicker.
And a significantly reduced risk of defects, making it into a large quantity of products. It fundamentally changed how businesses could interact with their customers' immediate needs.
Okay, great example. And then there's Zara, the fashion giant.
Zara. Very different model.
From 2001 to 2006, they saw more than 20% annual growth. That's phenomenal in the fashion industry.
Absolutely huge. And their secret, a fast response supply chain.
So speed was their weapon.
Zara proved that in highly uncertain markets, like fashion, speed isn't just a competitive advantage, it's almost a substitute for prediction.
Substitute for prediction? What do you mean?
Instead of making design and production decisions months, even a year, in advance of a season.
Which is typical in fashion.
Very typical. Their supply chain allows them to make those critical decisions within a fashion season, based on what's actually selling.
So they react to trends as they happen.
Exactly. This enables them to better meet that highly uncertain fashion demand and, crucially, minimize the costly mistakes and inventory obsolescence that often plague the industry. Less guesswork.
Makes sense. But it's not just about fashion or tech, is it? You mentioned 7-Eleven Japan, SEJ.
Right. SEJ posted record profits even during the Asian economic crisis.
Wow.
By being incredibly innovative in their supply chain management. They truly revolutionized convenience retail.
Convenience stores. What did they do?
They focused intensely on the demand side and the smart use of information to manage very scarce shelf space. That's a huge concern in crowded urban areas in Japan.
Okay, so optimizing shelf space.
Yeah, they implemented systems to analyze hourly sales trends daily. Think about that, hourly.
Wow.
And they made those results available to all stores and suppliers by the next morning.
Incredible speed of information.
Which supported incredibly efficient product replenishment,
Right.
ensuring high stock availability. The dividends were clear.
Let me guess. Lower costs.
Low operational costs, low inventories, short cycle times, and exceptionally high customer service.
All leading to increased sales and profits.
You got it.
Okay, so SEJ truly harnessed information within its own four walls. Very impressive. But the real magic, and perhaps the biggest challenge, comes when you need to extend that information flow beyond your company, right? Across dozens, maybe hundreds of partners.
That's a critical challenge, yeah. How do you pull that off?
And that brings us to a prime example of sophisticated information coordination and knowledge exchange between partners.
You're talking about the CPFR program, collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment.
Exactly. Pioneered by Warner Lambert and Walmart back in the mid-90s.
This was really about building genuine trust between major players.
They truly took it to the next level. Warner Lambert shared strategic plans, performance data, market insights.
With Walmart. And Walmart, in turn, shared its invaluable market knowledge, what they were seeing on the ground.
And the result. It wasn't just fuzzy goodwill, was it?
Not at all. Very tangible. Their product's shelf fill rate, basically, how often the product was actually on the shelf when a customer wanted it, jumped from 87%
Which sounds okay.
to an astounding 98%.
Wow, that's a huge jump.
And that generated an additional $8 million annually in sales for Warner Lambert just from that improvement.
That's a massive tangible impact from simply sharing information and coordinating efforts better.
It really is. So, zooming out a bit, these examples, whether it's SEJ's internal focus or Warner Lambert and Walmart's collaboration, they highlight two core issues for supply chain success. First, coordination and collaboration.
Meaning?
The whole supply chain needs to act as one entity, not just individual parties trying to optimize their own little piece of the puzzle.
Got it. And the second core issue?
The crucial ability to share information among partners who have truly aligned incentives. Everyone needs to benefit from cooperating.
Without both of those, coordination and aligned information sharing,
The chain becomes brittle. It breaks down.
Okay, so now that we understand why it's so important, let's deconstruct the supply chain itself. What exactly are we talking about when we say supply chain?
Well, at its core, a supply chain is simply all the parties involved in providing a product or service to a customer, either directly or indirectly.
All the parties.
Okay. And when we're talking about services, you might sometimes hear it referred to as a value chain. Similar concept.
To make this more concrete, let's walk through an example. Imagine you, our listener, walk into a Best Buy store.
Okay.
You want to buy a new digital camera. That Best Buy store is the final stage, right? Downstream in the supply chain.
Right. That's where you, the customer, interact. But think backwards from there.
Okay.
The Best Buy store holds inventory. That inventory was probably sourced from a distribution center.
Which could be Best Buy's own, or maybe some...
It is. And managing it effectively means asking some tough strategic questions.
Such as?
Well, companies must strategically consider, where are materials sourced and actually built? What distribution channels are we going to use? How do we build strong relationships?
With both customers and suppliers, I assume.
Absolutely. Also, how is customer information gathered and accessed? How are logistics structured? How is information coordinated globally? That's a huge one today.
And critically, you mentioned incentives earlier.
Yes. How might incentives be aligned to optimize the chain's overall performance, not just one player's?
So with all those questions in mind, what's the sort of fundamental definition of supply chain management? What exactly are we controlling here?
It's defined as the effective control of material, information, and finance.
Okay, three things. Material Information Finance.
As it flows among and through suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and customers. And these flows are distinct, and they're all crucial.
Let's break down those three types of flows then, starting with material flow. That seems the most obvious one.
Yeah, material flow is everything moving physically downstream your raw materials, maybe intermediate or unfinished parts, the final products.
Like those cameras going from Sony to the distribution center at Best Buy.
Exactly. But it also includes the upstream reverse flow.
Reverse flow, what's that?
Think returns, repairs, servicing, recycling, disposal.
Ah, okay. So if that digital camera you bought at Best Buy is defective,
You return it, and it might flow all the way back up the chain, maybe back to Sony for repair or recycling. That's reverse logistics, part of the material flow.
got it. Okay, second flow information. This seems absolutely critical given our earlier examples with Dell and SEJ.
It is. You could argue it's the most critical flow today. Information flow is primarily the upstream movement of data.
From the customer back up the chain.
Yeah. Sales data, actual customer orders, inventory levels at different points, quality feedback, even promotion plans.
And does information flow downstream too?
It does. Things like capacity plans from the manufacturer or delivery schedules flowing down towards the retailer and customer.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine Best Buy decides to run that big promotion on Sony digital cameras we mentioned. They must inform Sony upstream, right?
So Sony knows to make more cameras.
Exactly. So Sony can build more inventory because that promotion will cause a sales surge. But
Oh.
Sony, in turn, needs to be smart enough not to mistake that temporary promotion-driven sales surge for a long-term underlying increase in demand when they make future forecasts.
Ah, that's tricky. The nuance of information flow.
Precisely. That's the power and the challenge.
Okay, and finally, the third flow, financial flow. This seems pretty straightforward. Money goes up the chain from the customer, right?
Well, yes and no. It's not quite as simple as it seems. What's fascinating here is that the customer
The end user.
is the only party that provides a net positive financial flow into the entire supply chain.
The only source of new money.
Think about it. You buy a coffee, you're the only new money coming into that entire coffee supply chain from the bean farmer to the barista.
So what are all the other payments then? Sony paying Samsung for chips, Best Buy paying Sony.
Those are exchanges. Payments, credits, consignments. They're simply financial flows among the different parties within the chain, exchanging existing value.
Interesting distinction.
Yeah.
And how does this relate to success?
Crucially, we measure the success of the supply chain not by the local profits of individual sturges, like how much Sony made or how much Best Buy made, but by its total supply chain profitability.
Total profitability.
Yeah, that's the total revenue generated for the entire supply chain minus the total costs incurred across the whole chain, production, inventory, transportation, everything.
So it reinforces that idea we talked about earlier.
That the entire supply chain must work as one integrated entity to maximize that overall profitability.
That's a great distinction. So it's not about individual wins, but the collective success.
Exactly.
Now, knowing all this, how do companies actually decide on the right supply chain strategy? Because it can't be one size fits all, can it?
No, it absolutely isn't. And that's where many companies make a critical, sometimes devastating mistake.
What kind of mistake?
They adopt a supply chain strategy that just doesn't match their product characteristics. They often default to a pure cost reduction focus.
Because that seems like the obvious thing to do.
Right. But it can be entirely inappropriate. Remember Zara's success we discussed?
Yeah, they weren't just cutting costs.
Not at all. They built a highly responsive and likely more expensive in some ways system that perfectly fit their highly uncertain product. Cost wasn't the primary driver. Responsiveness was.
So what factors should managers consider then to avoid this pitfall? How do you match the strategy to the product?
The key is understanding your product's uncertainties. Managers really need to consider two main types: demand uncertainties and supply uncertainties.
Okay, let's start with demand-side uncertainty. You mentioned functional versus innovative products earlier. Can you paint a clearer picture of the difference?
Sure. Think about the everyday items you buy, your basic groceries. Maybe a plain white t-shirt, gasoline, oil. These are what we call functional products.
Staple goods.
Exactly. Their demand is typically incredibly stable and predictable. They have long life cycles. You're not seeing wildly new versions every week. Forecasting is relatively easy.
Lower product variety too, I imagine.
Generally, yeah, maybe 10, 20 variants. And because they're often closer to commodities, profit margins are usually tighter, maybe 5% to 20%. That predictability is the defining feature.
Okay, functional products. Stable, predictable, and innovative products? I'm guessing they're quite different.
Precisely the opposite. Innovative products think high fashion apparel, cutting-edge computers, the latest smartphones or telecom devices.
Things that change fast.
Exactly. They have very short life cycles, often just 2 months to a year. Their demand is highly unpredictable. Forecast errors can be huge, sometimes between 40% and 100%.
Wow, 100% error. That's like guessing randomly.
Pretty much. They tend to have high product variety, maybe hundreds of variants. Margins are higher, perhaps 20% to 60%, to compensate for the risks.
But there are downsides too.
Oh yeah. High stockout rates are common, maybe 10% to 40%, and significant end-of-season markdowns are needed to clear unsold inventory that can be 10% to 25% off the full price. It's the high-risk, high-reward game.
Okay, so that's demand uncertainty. Functional versus innovative. What about the supply side? Supply uncertainty.
Right. On the supply side, processes are generally classified as either stable or evolving.
Stable processes sound, well, stable.
They are. Think mature manufacturing processes, an established, reliable supply base. Imagine a well-oiled factory churning out millions of identical screws.
What characterizes them?
Fewer breakdowns, stable and higher yields from the process, fewer quality problems, more available and reliable supply sources, and dependable lead times. They're typically low in manufacturing complexity, predictable supply.
And evolving processes. That sounds more challenging, like dealing with brand new tech.
They are more challenging. Evolving processes are those where the underlying technology or manufacturing process is still under development or maybe immature.
Like making a brand new type of microchip.
Exactly. Or working with a completely novel composite material. This means they're vulnerable to breakdowns, yields can be variable and often lower. There's potential for significant quality problems.
Fewer suppliers, maybe?
Often fewer and less reliable supply sources, yes.
Yeah.
And highly variable lead times. They're unpredictable on the supply side, and that requires a completely different supply chain approach.
So it seems like functional products would naturally have stable supply processes, right?
Yeah.
Like making basic clothing should be pretty stable.
Usually, yes. But not always, and this is a surprising important nuance.
Oh!
An exception. While functional products are often associated with stable supply, there are notable exceptions. Think about some food produce, like certain fruits and vegetables.
Okay. Functional products, we buy them regularly.
Right. Demand might be relatively stable and predictable, but their supply can be highly uncertain. Weather, pests, harvest issues, disease. Both the quantity and quality can vary wildly season to season, or even week to week. So you can have stable demand, but highly uncertain supply.
That makes perfect sense. I never thought of it that way. So if we combine these two dimensions, demand uncertainty, low-high, and supply uncertainty, low-high, we get a kind of matrix, right?
Exactly, like a 2x2 grid. This uncertainty matrix allows us to classify products into 4 distinct groups based on their combined uncertainty profile.
Can you give examples for each quadrant?
Sure. Low demand uncertainty and low supply uncertainty. That's your grocery staples, basic commodities. Very predictable on both sides.
Okay. High demand, low supply.
That's fashion apparel, maybe computers. Demand is volatile, but the manufacturing processes themselves are relatively mature and stable.
Low demand, high supply.
That could be something like hydroelectric power. Demand might be relatively stable, but the supply, the rainfall, is highly uncertain and variable, or like the produce example we just discussed.
In the last quadrant. High demand uncertainty and high supply uncertainty.
That's the really tricky one. Think cutting-edge telecom equipment, maybe high-end semiconductors, where both the demand is volatile and the manufacturing process is still evolving and complex.
So each quadrant really presents a different challenge.
Absolutely. And each one sets the stage for a different strategic supply chain approach. You can't manage groceries the same way you manage bleeding-edge tech.
So what are these 4 strategic supply chain approaches that correspond to those product types in the matrix?
Okay, so matching the strategy to the product's uncertainty profile, we generally talk about 4 main types: efficient, risk-hedging, responsive, and agile supply chains.
Efficient, risk-hedging, responsive, agile. Got it. Let's start with efficient supply chains. What's their main purpose and where do they fit best?
Efficient supply chains are all about achieving the highest possible cost efficiencies, minimizing costs throughout the chain.
Makes sense. And where do they fit?
They are best suited for those products with both low demand uncertainty and low supply uncertainty. Your functional products with stable supply.
Like the groceries.
Exactly. The strategy here is relentless optimization. You focus on eliminating non-value added activities, leveraging IT for streamlined processes, maximizing capacity utilization.
Squeezing out waste.
Precisely. Focusing on productivity improvements through lean operations, automation, and really effective low-cost logistics. It's all about scale and efficiency.
And you mentioned Long's Drugs earlier as an example. What did they do differently?
Yes, Long's Drugs, a large U.S. drugstore chain back in the day, they implemented state-of-the-art replenishment optimization software across their entire network.
Software to manage inventory better.
Right, to figure out exactly what needed to be where and when with minimal waste. The result was about a 40% saving in inventory costs.
Huge savings.
But here's the kicker. What did that 40% inventory savings mean? It wasn't just money sitting in a bank account.
They reinvested it.
They strategically redeployed that freed up capital to purchase 20 new stores.
Wow. So efficient supply chain management wasn't just about cutting costs.
It was a direct engine for expansion and market capture. It funded growth.
Very powerful. Okay, next up, risk-hedging supply chains. The name suggests it's about managing supply problems.
That's exactly right. Risk-hedging supply chains are designed to pool and share resources to offset significant supply uncertainties. Think unreliable yield, unstable processes, or long variable lead times.
So these are best for products with high supply uncertainty.
Yes, particularly when demand might still be relatively stable. The focus is buffering against supply disruptions.
And how do they do that? What are the tactics?
It often involves sharing resources across the chain, like pooled inventory, or, crucially, arranging multiple supply bases, having backup suppliers ready to go.
So you're not reliant on just one source that might fail.
Exactly. That redundancy costs money, but it's justified by avoiding the much higher cost of potential shortages or line shutdowns. The internet also plays a big role here.
How so?
Facilitating rapid information transfer and helping companies quickly find those alternative sources if a primary one has issues.
Like the Covisint example you mentioned, where major car manufacturers came together.
Precisely. Covisint was an e-marketplace set up by the big auto giants GM, Ford, Daimler Chrysler, etc.
What did it let them do?
Imagine trying to source a specific, maybe complex, mission-critical car part. Suddenly, through Covisint, you had an entire digital marketplace of vetted suppliers ready to bid or provide capacity.
So it opened up options quickly.
Yeah, it allowed companies to quickly find many potential supply sources. This effectively reduced the risk of a single supplier failure causing costly production line shutdowns.
And pooled the risk, in a way.
It did. It pooled and distributed risk across the industry and even helped cut down lead times for components by improving visibility and access.
Okay, makes sense for hedging against supply risk.
Yeah.
Now for responsive supply chains. Given our earlier Zara discussion, I have a feeling this is where flexibility truly shines.
You're spot on. Responsive supply chains are all about maintaining maximum flexibility to respond quickly to sudden shifts or volatility in demand. Speed replaces foresight.
And where do these fit best?
They are the best fit for products with high demand uncertainty, but where the supply processes themselves are generally stable and reliable. Think fashion, consumer electronics sometimes.
And the core strategy.
It's really about shifting away from relying heavily on long-term forecasting, which we know is inaccurate for these products.
Right.
And instead, maximizing flexibility through approaches like postponement or build-to-order strategies, waiting for real demand signals before committing.
And here's where the fashion industry really comes into play again, isn't it? They've pioneered some amazing tactics here.
Absolutely. The fashion industry, with its innovative products but often fairly stable sewing and manufacturing processes, has been a laboratory for responsive supply chains. They have to deal with the fashion gamble.
You mentioned Benetton earlier. What did they do?
Benetton, the Italian clothing company, famously pioneered postponement in their sweater manufacture.
Postponement.
No.
Delaying something.
Yes. Instead of dyeing the yarn first, which commits you to a color very early.
Right. You'd have lots of, say, purple yarn.
They changed their process to knit the sweaters first, using undyed, natural yarn, and then dye the finished garments much later in the process.
So they could wait and see which colors were actually selling.
Exactly. They delayed the crucial color decision until much more real-time demand information was available from stores. Less risk of ending up with tons of unsold purple sweaters.
Clever. And Sport Obermeyer, the skiwear company, had a smart approach too, didn't they?
Yes, Sport Obermeyer developed something called accurate response. It was a bit different.
How did that work?
They realized some items had more predictable demand than others, so they would produce the items with more predictable demand, say, basic black ski pants before the season began, based on forecasts.
Okay, lock in the basics.
But for the more unpredictable, trendy items like a uniquely styled ski jacket, they'd hold back capacity and produce those within the season, only after more accurate demand insights started coming in from early sales.
So a split strategy, minimizing risk on the truly speculative items.
Precisely. Combining forecasting for the safe bets with responsiveness for the risky ones.
And then there's Zara again. You call them the ultimate responsive example. Their system sounds truly revolutionary.
It really is. Zara's fast response system is a masterclass in both agility and responsiveness, primarily focused on demand. They design and manufacture over 10,000 different designs annually.
10,000.
But in small batches. Designs that don't sell well are quickly discontinued. No massive commitments.
So they cut their losses fast.
Very fast. They also intentionally maintain reserve manufacturing capacity within the season so they can quickly ramp up production of items that suddenly take off.
And they use fast transport.
Yeah.
Even if it costs more.
Yes, they use planes and trucks for quick delivery, even if sea freight is cheaper. Why? Because that higher transport cost is massively outweighed by the savings from reduced inventory holding costs and, crucially, avoiding those huge losses from end-of-season markdowns on trendy items that didn't sell.
Speed pays for itself.
In their market, absolutely.
So, Zara can deliver new styles worldwide in just 2 to 4 weeks. What does this rapid turnaround really mean for their business model and for their customers?
It means they can make design and production decisions as trends are literally forming. They almost completely eliminate the need for risky long-term prediction.
And for their stores.
For their stores, it means they hold significantly less inventory, reducing risk and capital tied up. They receive products very quickly after ordering.
And for the customer.
It means there's always something fresh and new to see every couple of weeks. It keeps customers coming back frequently, creating excitement and scarcity. It's a continuous, real-time feedback loop between store, customer, design, and production.
Incredible system. Okay, finally, the fourth type. Agile supply chains. This sounds like it needs to handle everything the best of both worlds.
That's precisely it. Agile supply chains aim to combine responsiveness to customer needs with the ability to effectively manage significant supply uncertainty as well.
So these are for that toughest quadrant.
Exactly. They are best suited for products with both high demand uncertainty and high supply uncertainty, the most challenging environment.
And how do they achieve this dual capability? What's the key mechanism?
A lot of it comes down to sophisticated pooling of inventories and other capacity resources across partners, coupled with intense real-time information sharing. It builds on both risk hedging and responsive principles.
Can you give some powerful examples of this agile approach in action?
Sure. Xilinx Inc., a semiconductor company, is often cited as a great case study.
What do they do?
They outsource their wafer manufacturing, which is a complex process with supply uncertainties, but they arrange for their manufacturing partners to effectively stockpile the generic wafers upon manufacture.
Creating a shared buffer stock.
Exactly. A shared global inventory pool of semi-finished goods. Then, as actual customer demand for specific chip configurations became known,
They could pull from the pool.
the supply partners could draw directly from those pooled stockpiles for the final assembly and testing stages, which were much quicker. This pools the inventory risk across many potential end products and allows them to respond quickly without needing massive dedicated stockpiles for every single possible chip variation.
Very smart. Pooling risk and enabling speed. And Cisco, using the internet, also comes to mind as a pioneer in agility, right?
Yes, absolutely. Cisco was very early in leveraging the internet, creating what they called an e-hub.
And EO.
Basically a platform to coordinate planning and execution across multiple tiers of their suppliers, not just their direct suppliers, but their suppliers too.
Deep visibility into the network.
Exactly. This not only created an incredibly agile supply chain capable of responding to both demand shifts and potential supply issues.
But it also gave them another benefit.
Yes, it provided the additional massive benefit of early detection. They could spot potential supply bottlenecks or demand surges much earlier across their incredibly complex global network.
Allowing them to proactively adjust before issues blew up.
Precisely. Proactive problem solving instead of reactive firefighting. That's agility in action.
This has been incredibly insightful. So what does this all mean for us, the listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive? What's the big takeaway?
Well, when we connect all these dots, looking at the big picture, success in today's really complex global marketplace isn't just about simply cutting costs or being efficient internally anymore.
That's not enough.
It's not enough. It's fundamentally about strategically aligning your supply chain, its structure, its capabilities to your product's unique demand and supply uncertainties.
Matching the strategy to the context.
Exactly. And mastering those crucial flows. We talked about material, information, and finance across your entire network, treating it as one interconnected, collaborative entity.
So this raises an important, maybe provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider after today's deep dive.
Okay.
What hidden connections or perhaps untapped information flows exist in your world, whether that's your business, maybe a project you're working on, or even just your daily routine?
Interesting angle.
That could potentially unlock new value or efficiency if you approach them with more of a supply chain mindset. Think about how those different pieces truly connect or how they could connect better.